What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 4 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the alert so you never miss a show. And for all you podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on either Apple Podcast or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. Jack, kick us off with the Phans of Philly, John.
Flyers fans, we've got something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Phans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to team for putting together unforgettable travel packages for die-hard Philly sports fans.
Why Phans of Philly, you ask? Let's break it down for you guys. They've spent years building the best relationships with bars, hotels, teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better. And trust me, they'll make sure your experience is top notch.
That's right, Jim. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel, finding the hottest nightlife, or securing the best seats in the arena, Phans of Philly, that's PH Fans, has it all figured out. They know how to make your trip an absolute blast. So head on over to fansofphilly.com and book your next Flyers road trip today.
Man, you just killed that. You just knocked that out of the park, Jack.
I was prepared.
That read.
Oh, I can get used to hearing that.
Top of the league in scoring, 7 points, 4 games, 3 goals, 4 assists. Let's just get right into it, right? Like, Flyers got 1 preseason game left, 6 down, 1 to go. I think it was a 4-1 loss last night. That's fine. Michkov still gets on the score sheet. We're coming to the end. We're getting to the bubble players. Obviously, the title of the episode is Jett Luchanko related, and he's made it to the finish line. Is he going to make the team? We'll discuss. And I want to hear from obviously the guys and girls in the chat. What do you think? Does Luchanko make the team here? We got Dave wanting to talk a little bit, Richard a little bit. Yeah, and I'd be happy to talk about Anthony Richard. Explicit in the chat. What's up, guys? What's up, Explicit? We got a big show for you guys. It's time. The Flyer season is now less than 10 days away from officially starting, Jack. The roster is pretty much shaped up. I don't think there are too many surprises, right? We said in the beginning, there's not really a lot of spots to give out on this team. And here we are talking about Jett Luchanko potentially still making the roster. What do you think?
I mean, it's a dream, essentially, that the guy that we all saw the draft pick, we all had our thoughts and whatnot, and to be, instead of having a discussion of what we could have missed out on, instead of having the discussion, could a player make the NHL roster who would easily be the youngest for the Flyers, and not just out of necessity. Like, he legitimately has shown he can keep up with the pace of play. He is a new age style of player. I feel like him with some of our younger guys, Michkov especially, would make a lot of sense. It's just, can he hold up at the NHL level, being a freshly turned 18 years old? The fact that we're having that conversation and a guy like Torts is kind of pushing for that is huge. That is exactly what you want out of that draft we just had at the center position, a position of need. So it's all great news here in Philly. A lot of things to talk about, but just when it comes to Jett, could not get better news on the whole subject.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I don't know. Let's break into him right off the bat, I guess. Like, let's get this over with, because it's going to happen one way or another tonight. Obviously, we're going to touch on Michkov, who is as advertised, right? Which is pretty great, because we always hear, and Jack, I kind of want to know what you think. So maybe it's just the PTSD, but sometimes when I watch Michkov, I have a hard time believing that, like, he's ours and, like, that this is going to last kind of thing. Like, I don't know if it's just me and, like, the kind of year that I just had, or the kind of decade the Flyers just had, but it's like, we really get to keep this guy. We really get to watch him night in and night out. Like, he's not going to, like, get hurt, or he's not going to get traded, or, say he wants to play somewhere else. Like, he really wants to be here, and we really get to watch this for 82 games a season. Do you get that sense at all, or is that just a me thing?
I get it a little bit. Don't say he's not going to get hurt. That's the one thing that can get us. But I understand what you're saying. Like when Nolan Patrick was here, like he didn't play like this. He couldn't even lift a finger to what Michkov was doing. You're used to seeing this style of player in highlights from somebody else's team. You're used to seeing Bedard last year do this stuff. Zegras in Anaheim doing some crazy stuff. Go far back as you want to, all the way back. Ovechkin scoring ridiculous goals his rookie season. Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, names you expect. But Michkov I'm not saying he's up there with those guys, but as far as his first preseason with the hype, one of my favorite things I like about Michkov, besides all of the talent, the goal scoring, the vision, all of that, in his will to win and want to score, he's there to play. He's not much else he wants to do but play and win. Besides all of that, he had a huge hype train, and that can crush somebody. That can crush a player, hype like that. We see it in the NFL a lot with quarterbacks going number 1 overall. They can't handle the weight. Michkov thrives, absolutely thrives. Was never seriously worried about it. Maybe the language barrier helped with that. I don't know. But, like, he just thrives. He's like, yeah, I'm here to win. Everything he said, oh, this is easy, like the whole golfing thing on the standard, like he just makes light of everything. And he's like, I'm here to win. They're not ready for me to win. I'm not there yet. And then when I'm there, we'll start winning. Or those comments he makes, like that's, I like him, but it's also, there's going to be some hype with that. And he seems to not be bothered by it at all. When he puts the skates on, it is business. And he's just a force. And I just cannot wait till they do whatever we can to just center the team around him specifically. This is year 1, so this is more of an experiment in a way. So far, so good. I like what Sean said, his OT reaction. I had that saved on my phone now. Not only was him shooting was great, him winning the game, and Korpisalo is not like nobody. He's not really a starter anymore, but he's still a decent goalie. Like he just knows what he's doing. He moved to center, he shot, he didn't pass, wins the game. But what Tom is getting at there, or Sean is getting at there, is how the team absolutely mobs him. It's like, and I retweeted that, and I wrote, when did the Flyers locker room become the Phillies locker room? And when you look at Philadelphia sports right now, and this goes for all sports, and there's a whole culture, that's a fake thing. I don't know how much impact it has, but one thing I do know, a good locker room goes a long way. Look at the Phillies and look at the Eagles, and you tell me which of those teams has a good locker room and which one has bad, and look how their seasons are going. It's obviously a lot more than that. Coaching's one thing as well, but the Phillies locker room is one of the best locker rooms in all of sports, and it's definitely not, what's the word I'm looking for here? It definitely shows in their play. It shows in their success, really. Like this year they win the division, which they were not picked to do, like by a long shot, and they've gone to the World Series. They've had playoff success. They all love each other out there. They're willing to play for each other. That's what you want in Philly. You got a bunch of guys on contracts who don't really care or making excuses. That's how your team stops listening to the coach. They don't start. They're playing for themselves. Half of them want out of here. Voracek's case, like they're laughing at the coach. Like what do you agree with what he said? Like you don't want to do that. It feeds into the rest of the team. You start to just not take things seriously. And while I don't think he was a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, that kind of stuff rubs off on other players, I believe. Whether you want to call that culture or not, it was just common sense. That's up to you. But to see this team come together around the guy that they know, because a lot of these guys on the Flyers, they want to get back to the playoffs. Some of them, it might be, I don't want to say the last chance, but they're definitely getting older. We don't know what's going on with, how long Coots it has realistically. Some of these guys have only touched the playoffs. Risto's never been to the playoffs. He's been in the league. I think he was drafted in 2013, for God's sake. Like, that's a long time. He's been in the league of losing. He's never seen the playoffs. You get a guy like this come in here. It's like, we were close last year. I'm not saying we might get it this year, but he's a guy who's good enough to get us there. And that was all hype until he started playing. And to see it, just like you and me, Jim, how we see this, how this guy's ours, really? I bet you the players feel a certain way about that too. And seeing it produce on ice, like, Whitten solves a lot of things, man. And for them to come together like that and be pumped up, and Coots dropping the gloves, he's had, 4 fights in his whole career? Goes and fights in preseason? But Coots, injury-prone Coots, fighting in preseason to prove a point. And, we're going to see each other. Come on, man. this team of old, they're getting jackknife power bombed at center ice and nobody's doing anything. But they're going to fight now in preseason. That is a different team. That's a different mentality right there. That's exactly what we want to see. I didn't mean to make that so long-winded, but it was exciting to see. And I love that.
Yeah, for sure. That's just, it's a weird thing for me. It's been so long since we've had a player like this that, and so many bad things have happened, so I'm hoping that we're turning the corner here and we can start, really just being normal. Like, I just want to watch good players play hockey for an extended period of time. I want the Flyers to be good again. I want their good players to be good and yada, yada. But so speaking of good hockey players, let's get back on Jett Luchanko for a little bit here. So some comments. Vegas, well, Benny has the Jets Luchanko baby, and he also comments, Luchanko at least deserves the 9 NHL games prior to being sent back to the juniors. And this has kind of been a topic, and while I'll say it's mostly been, well, I want to know your thoughts on this, Jack, because I don't know if I really have seen or I've heard your opinion on this about the 9 games. Should Luchanko get the full 9 games?
To me personally, I don't see why not. It doesn't bother me. It's like, if you look at it the right way, it shouldn't be a problem. It should be a reward. Like, you impressed us, especially how young he is. Realistically, especially if you have the conversation with the kid, we don't expect you to make the team this year. You have definitely jumped our depth chart significantly, and we'll definitely have a really interesting conversation next year. We're going to give you these 9 games. We want to see how your body holds up and how you hold up against NHL players. It's one thing to beat teams B and C teams, but to go up against the grind when these players, a lot of them are just knocking rust off, these full-time NHLers in preseason, and they're just getting their skating legs under them. They know they're going to play a full 82 in the NHL. They're not going to kill themselves in preseason unless their job's on the line. So when you're going up against these guys in the regular season, when all things count, that's a different game. I would like to see him in this 9-game tryout for that reason. There is a difference between preseason and the regular season. I want to see if he can continue that over into the regular season. And not just a couple of the 9. I'm not going to be like, 3 of the 9 he did it, and then after that he trailed off. That's bad to me. Not in the long run, but just for this season. So yeah, I would definitely like to see how long he could hold up and how he could hold play with some of these guys. They're men, and he's a boy. It is what it is, and I would like to see it because he's improved enough, or he's impressed enough to get that opportunity. But at the end of the day, even if he looks like he can stick through all 9 games, I just can't help but think he should go back at that point to juniors, because I just feel like he needs another year dominating the best he can. I understand he plays for a pretty rough team in juniors out there, just prove that he's definitely doesn't belong there anymore. And I also don't want, he's not fully developed. I don't think his scoring game is fully developed yet. And you could send him to dominate a smaller, lesser competition still. I don't want Torts making him like a full-time third-line center in the sense that he's more defensively responsible than he is taking chances offensively.
Okay, so Dave comments here, as long as we're realistic, let's see what he's got. And my question would be, what is realistic? Because from what I've seen, and up until really recently, I'm not sure what people's expectations are for Luchanko. And I just want to say this, he was the same player when he was drafted, before he was drafted, when no Flyers fans really knew who he was. He was the same player. Now Flyers fans know who he is. They've gotten to see him play a little bit. And, you have some guys saying this could be their future 1C. And it's like, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit, guys, right? Because this is what we do. We get all stirred up in the hoopla and, and whatnot. And all of a sudden, a guy who nobody wanted, right? You remember the draft? Like it's just
Well,
there wasn't a Flyers fan that was like, yeah, we should take Luchanko. I'm just, like just in general.
right.
And now we got him, and you have some guys going, this could be their 1C of the future, and it's like, well, why don't we just get somewhere in the middle there, guys? Like.
Well, I couldn't
This,
agree more with that. You know how I am on sample size, but I feel like a lot of people are so one or the other.
yeah, it's too much.
You're
It's
going
too
100
much.
miles an hour or you're dead stopped. And a lot of people are like that. And I think 10 years of losing will do that to you. If you weren't already like that a little bit already, it'll definitely pull that out of you. I think a lot of that's going on. And it's like, look, we sucked for so long. Let's go. This guy's good. Put him on the team. Like, I get it. I get it. But like at the end of the day, it's still technically a rebuild or a retool or whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to potentially mess with the kid's development for no reason. Part of me is a little selfish. I don't want to take a year off of CLC. There, I said it. Like, I think you need to financially navigate these waters as well. You're going to have Couturier signed to the ends of the earth. You kept Konechny, and while he's still a very effective player, it's a lot of money, and this is going to add up. So having more guys under – and look, Michkov's here now, not in 3 years. He came in 1 year. So you're going to have to pay him too. So, like, you're going to have to figure some things out. They got a lot of talent. They've already signed Tippett long-term. They're going to have to eventually make a contract decision, or they're going to resign him. I just don't know how much for like a Forrester in this year, next year. Cam York's another name. He's going to make some money. They got, I'm sure Rissa will be moved at some point, but like they have to be financially smart, I guess is the weak way to say it. So like it'd be nice to keep everybody, but it's not, the 90s where you can just pay whoever, whatever you want. And money's no issue. That you're going to have to form this team and you want to add, right? We want to be able to add. Well, if you financially strap yourself down, they'll still have some money, but I would like more money. I would like significantly more money, because if you're going free agent shopping, it's going to cost you, and you just got to see it. I cannot help but think like, man, that's another year burned off the ELC. In 2 to 3 years, we're putting guys on bridge deals or signing them long-term that we shouldn't have been having this conversation for like 4 or 5 years. And I hope that doesn't hurt the team. Ultimately, if the guy's good enough, he's good enough. But why force it down your throat this year? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't look in games. The first period of the first game that I saw him in with the Flyers. I mean, I saw him in the rookie game. He looked really good. The first period against the Islanders, I'm going to assume he was nervous, and he adjusted somewhat quickly because he didn't look the same after that first period. And I rewatched the game last night before the show today, and positionally, this kid is sound, right? He's got a good hockey IQ. He's learning very quickly, and he's adjusting away from the puck. But what I noticed in this game, and he spends very little time with the puck, in possession of the puck. He's kind of bounced out of plays pretty quick when there's some physicality going on. So like, I'm just imagining like, all right, like if you want to keep him up, maybe he gets 1 or 2 games so that he can go back. And now he has in his head, okay, this is what a real NHL game is like. This is how much work I need to do before next year to get on, to make this team. I know what to expect. Because like preseasons, this is all invaluable experience for him, but it's not NHL regular season hockey. Like he's been playing a lot of AHLers, which is still a step above where he is now. And a lot of bottom 6 guys who are still NHL players. And let's be real, Luchanko's not popping off the page in these games. He's not. He's just hanging around, which is fine, right? Because it's better than the alternative. You don't want him to look bad, and he doesn't look bad. But for me, when I watch him, he's just out there. He's not making mistakes, or at least not any costly mistakes. He took a penalty after a long shift last night, 2-minute shift. But I don't think the Flyers gave up a goal on it. Look, for me, and we discussed this in our group chat earlier, right now, like if we're talking potential, obviously you're taking Luchanko over guys like Noah Cates, Ryan Poehling, Scott Lawton, right? But that potential is not being realized today, right now. And for me, and I think somebody even said it in one of the chat here, Keith the Bellum at the Bethlehem kind of touched on it. Jett is good, but I don't think he forces anyone out yet. Go back a year, and for me, I don't think he's outplayed any of the vets. I don't think he's outplayed Ryan Poehling, who's a bigger body, can skate. Torts likes him, so he's got that going for him as well. Noah Cates, I think brings more to an NHL hockey game right now than Jett Luchanko. And then you have Scott Lawton, who is, seemingly invaluable to this roster and to that locker room. So who does Luchanko replace during these games? I don't think he replaces any one of those guys. Now, if you want to bring him along on the trip and if there's a way to do that and kind of show them the way things are done at the NHL level, traveling wise, and continue to make those bonds, that's fine. I think I would prefer. I would have already sent him to Guelph. I know that that's unpopular. This way, he can get acclimated back home and get ready for the Guelph season, Guelph Storm. That's just me. I wouldn't even get him in these regular season games because for me. Are we expecting the Flyers to challenge for a playoff spot this year, Jack?
I have them on the bubble.
But like the goal is to make them, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why I think Torts is pushing for Jett to make the team. He's not thinking about, and I know deep down he is, but like you're a coach, you want to win, you're out here to win, you're pushing for the team to make the playoffs, and Jett seems at this point to be a clearer upgrade where the team is weak at 3C. He'd make a hell of a 3C. Like a third line of Luchanko, Brink, and Farabee. Like, damn, that's your third line? And you had one of the best fourth lines in hockey last year? Like, holy shit, you're rolling out 3 scoring lines, a damn good fourth line. I just might bite them in the ass later in the year, but I understand where Torts is coming from. But that's not best, in my opinion, for the player and for mostly the organization.
So my thinking was kind of the opposite. Like if you're trying Luchanko out during the regular season.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, not that he's going to single-handedly lose them games, but you know what you have in Cates, Poehling, Lawton, right? And they, in my opinion, they're good enough to win some of these games with, right? Whereas Luchanko, now I think I said it on our post game show last night. They start away. They have 4 straight road games to start the season. If Luchanko starts out as your 3C, which is probably where he belongs right now, right?
Oh yeah.
You get less change. I'm sorry, the home team gets less change. Wouldn't you put your best, most experienced players out against Luchanko for draws and for puck possession? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So in my opinion, it's not really setting him up for any kind of success, putting him in these games. Maybe you want to see what he's got, but do you really want to experiment with these early games? Like at the end of the year, these games they're going to matter just as much. So if the goal is to make the playoffs, I don't really want to see Luchanko getting a shot just to see if he can stick. Because in my opinion, he's not gonna. So that's my take.
So I agree with you.
Send him back.
I agree with that. I don't think Torts is thinking that way. And it's in his interviews. Like he's pushing like almost like through the media, even though we know they all talk. Yeah. Why is he telling the media? Like he's making a point. So I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if like one you brought up earlier that I would have sent him back already, have him get ready for the Guelph Storm season. And I understand that. I've heard that Keith Jones is not a proponent of the 9-game tryout, and it's because of what you just said. Like it takes a player out of his regular startup to the season. He misses some time, and then he goes back. He's got to get up to speed. And then there's a part of him that he says like the player is not quite ready to play. Like he's still getting over the fact that I went from the NHL to this. Like, there's a lot of things to factor in. And for that reason alone, on top of just the organizational thoughts, building your team, ELC, all that, I don't think he gets the 9-game tryout. I mean, I would give it to him, but there's a lot to consider here. They're human. It's not like NHL where you can just, okay, whatever, you're an 88, you're a 78 overall. I'll wait till you're an 81. It's just different. And for that reason, I don't know if I'd send him back as early as you wanted to, but because I give him a little reward. I let him finish out the preseason, be like, you're like our last cut, dude, and you know why. It's your age, and that's
sure.
it. But, and then again, you can argue back. Is a 9-game tryout that much of a throw off to a season? I think because of those other factors, maybe it is. So we'll see. He seems like a guy where I think Jett will handle it. He doesn't seem phased where he's at. Like you have a Wade Allison or oh my God, who's that guy that we had that was sent back to the fans? So when we first started podcasting, that fourth line guy that we liked, he had a great preseason, couple of games, then he fell off a cliff. He's playing in Russia now. I cannot remember his name. Remember, I could never say it. Oh my God. I think it started with a V, not Van Videldi. It was
Vorobiev?
Vorobiev, yes. Vorobiev, like 2018-19, killed the preseason. Had 2 good games in the NHL, forgot how to play hockey after that, got sent down like Allison last year, didn't make the team, plays the fans, and they don't handle it well. They're like, I shouldn't be here, wah. And then they're both out of the organization and most likely well on their way out of the NHL. And I say that in Wade Allison's case because Vorobiev is long gone. And it's like, I don't think Jett will have that problem. He doesn't strike me as somebody who will get, piss and moan because he didn't make the team. I think he's got to be somewhat self-aware. First off, he has poise. He seems to not be, sweat under the lights. Like he just is like, yeah, I'm just going to play my game. And I love that because that's how Michkov is. I think if he was to be told this is the plan and this is what we're going to do, he'd say, okay, I'll be better. I'll be ready for you more next year. And it's a mentality thing based on how he speaks and how he carries himself. And I have no issues in that as well. I don't think he needs to make the team or he's going to be bent out of shape. So by all means, if you want to give him I say that saying send him back now, give him the 9 games, whatever. But you're sending him back, he'll be able to handle it.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's normal. It's a big year coming up. He'll be able to play in the World Junior Classic, another full season with Guelph. And by the time next season rolls around, he will have just turned 19 years old, and we can do this all over again. So more big news. I think it was last week. Alexei Kolosov, your boy, came over, Jack.
Coley the goalie finally got up off his ass, got on a plane and headed over once he saw Fedotov and Erson were killing it. He arrived, and it was one of those things, Jim. I'm just gonna get right into it. Like, wow, the Flyers, Danny put his foot down like he should have, and Coley said, "Shit, I literally have nowhere to play. I did sign a contract. I am an adult. I guess I should go play." So he gets on a plane. He's coming over, and I'm sitting there tweeting this, retweeting that. And I told you guys, I'm going to be nice. You know what? I bitched and moaned. He got him out of Bitchville. Good for him. He finally, because it's even tougher to do it now. Once you pull back for so long to say, fuck it, I'm going over, it's tough. He did it. So I'll give it to him. Why did that one little report have to come out? And I don't even know if it's 100%. But there is a rumor out there. I'll say rumor. Jim, if it's not a rumor, correct me if I'm wrong. If it got shot down, correct me if I'm wrong. But there's a little birdie out there floating around saying that Kolosov has some kind of handshake agreement with the Flyers organization that if he does not see significant NHL time, he can go back to Russia. He couldn't just come over, could he? He had to have the little, what do you call that? The ace in the hole. He had to have his little out. That pisses me off. I know. I have a feeling you might feel a little different about that, Jim. But the idea was he'll play some AHL games and he'll play some NHL games. And if he's not in the NHL for a significant time, he can go right back to Russia. That's horse manure, dude. Are you kidding me? You got to get an out. That's the only thing that got you over. Not a fan of that. Tell me why I'm wrong, Jim.
I don't know if you're wrong for feeling that way. Like you're allowed to not agree with that. But I think it kind of ties in with what I was looking for. I don't know. I don't remember what show it was, last week or the week before. Um, it's a different situation, so there should be able to be a different solution. Like if we're putting everyone in a cookie cutter, then we might lose players. We might, I mean, I don't know. Like, so Briere, you could say, he played the hardball. He put his foot down, and maybe at the same time, Kolosov was like, okay, I'll come over. I'll do this. I'll do what I need to do. But, if I don't make the NHL roster, if I'm not playing significant games in the NHL, can we work something out, because I'm not going back to the AH. I'm not going to spend significant time in Allentown, you know? And this is what I mean. If you're Briere, like in the media, whoever needs to see this, as you being, this hard guy, and this is how we're going to be. And, we're going to put our foot down. And if you sign the contract, that's the contract. Sure. As long as everybody else sees that, that's really all that matters. Right. But behind closed doors, if you want to be like, hey, um, let's work something out here. Let's come to an agreement that works for both sides. If you can't make the team, you'll still be our property, but we'll allow you to play in the KHL kind of thing. If there's the agreement there, as long as everybody else sees that, okay, the Flyers are making this decision and not Kolosov, I think that's what matters most, right? The image and what you want everyone to think, kind of thing. But going back to, like, this was a different situation, I think it needs a different solution. As long as to me, it seems like he wants to play for the Flyers, but he just wants to play for the NHL organization. He doesn't want to be in the AHL. And I get that it looks like he's choosing where he wants to play or whatever, but I'm looking at the KHL like it's a minor league. So the only difference between him playing in the KHL for me and the AHL is that it's in another country, and it's a country far away where people are telling him to stay. That's the only difference for me. And the Flyers don't have their hands on him, right? Which is, I think, why we want him to play in the AHL. Yeah, I don't know how it would work. Like, if he ends up signing a contract to play in the KHL, obviously the Flyers can't call him over if somebody gets hurt over here. There would be obstacles, and the Flyers weren't really prepared for those obstacles at the time. I don't know if Makiniemi's the answer if those obstacles arise, but that he's here is something, I think, right?
Okay, definitely.
So yeah. I mean, I think I'm good with that. I don't hate it that there's an out for him to go back to the KHL if he's not getting significant time with the Flyers. I'm okay with that.
Jim, you're a man of the people, and I appreciate that for you. I'm not. No, not after these 10 years. I can't stand. I shouldn't say I can't stand it. I listened to a podcast earlier today with Keith Jones, and there's really not a whole lot to add, except for, like he said, players have more option nowadays. And it really grinds my gears. And it's not every player, it's certain players.
Right.
It's Americans. Let's not kid ourselves here. And then Russia's always kind of like a crapshoot. And it just irks me. I'm glad he wants to play for the Flyers, but the fact that I have to say that is, like, ridiculous. If I was talking about a free agent, that's a different story. I'm talking about a guy who was drafted in the 3rd round, who was allowed to play or played in Russia and came up, because I shouldn't say allowed. That's just how it is when you draft a Russian player. They play in their leagues, they have contracts and all that. And a lot of the reasons why they can't come over to the NHL has always been the contract. The contract. He wants to come today. He can't come because he's got a contract. And now he's got a contract and he doesn't want to come over. And I don't even know how much of it is this homesick bullshit. He just doesn't want to play in the AHL. I get it. Ryan Johansson doesn't want to play in the AHL because you got to ride the bus. You don't stay at the nice places. You got to, be in Allentown, which is like, Allentown's not the end of the world, but apparently you can see it from there. It's that bad. And it's unbelievable, the entitlement. It irks the shit out of me. It's like, oh, I'll come, but if I don't like things, I can get out, right? Normally contracts don't work that way. And you said this is different. Well, he made it different. The reason it's a different set of circumstances is because he made it that way. And I guess I applaud Briere because, like we're all saying, me especially, I don't want to lose an asset for nothing. I really don't. It's bad enough like you had to take what you can get for Cutter, which was not bad. But like we've been in situations where you get nothing for a guy. And so, like, I thought that was happening with Kolosov not that long ago. So it's like, I'll take what I can get. But when I heard he was coming over, and like almost immediately, it's like, but it's like, there's always a but with this freaking guy, man. Just play hockey. Like, come on. You cannot be that out of the loop to go, oh, geez, I got to play in the AHL. What a shame. The guys aren't going to get hurt or need a break or something. You're going to get called up. They cannot wait to bring you up. Like, Fedotov's 28 years old. Like, you're going to get called up. They cannot wait to see what you have, especially when you got other guys coming. How does he not look at Zavragin's stats right now as they're being reported? Follow Alex Appleyard. He'll keep you updated. This guy's killing it on a bad team out there. You're going to forget who Kolosov is. So if I'm Kolosov, I want to play. I want to be here with the organization. I mean,
that's what I think. That's what he's saying. I mean, no, you're saying organization, but
I'm very careful with my words.
He does want to be here, but he wants to be in Philadelphia, not Allentown.
Think about the team. Zavragin's playing with a very bad team, doing very well. He doesn't want to play with the Phantoms. Maybe they're not that good. Well, play good. It's possible, and force their hand. Like, it's irritating as hell. And what kills me even more is Kolosov played half a game. He didn't play last night, right? It's the only game I missed.
He played the night before.
So I saw that game. He looked good. I liked his play. And that kills me. I'm not going to lie to you because I can't stand his antics. But it's a fact. Even though the very last goal, I was not on him. Like, he looked better than Fedotov in that small sample size. It's the reason why I get so animated about the whole situation. He's a good young prospect. Just do what every other prospect in the history of the game outside of the assholes have done. No, I'll choose the asshole side. And it irks the shit out of me. He finally comes over, but there's a but. There's got to be a but with this guy. Now, well, I'll back off a little bit. Have you seen that confirmed? I thought that was a rumor.
Where did it come from?
I don't remember. I just know I read it, and you know me, I saw red after that. So who knows? It wasn't bullshit though. I know it was definitely like going around. So it definitely wasn't Elliot Friedman. It was nothing like that.
I'm trying to think back. So
it definitely wasn't confirmed then. So I don't want to kill him.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a Russian account tweet something, and I think whatever the Russian account put out was Bush League. It ended up being. I don't know. I could look it up and confirm.
Well,
but
look, the Russian league had sent stuff out saying Michkov will be a Flyer next year, like 3 months before that happened, and they were right. Like they're in touch. Like, they're not stupid out there. They got their sources too, and it just irks me, man. If you want to play in the NHL, the best place to play is the AHL because you'll get called up. I mean, if it doesn't work out where you can play, or they don't want to carry 3 goalies, you're going to get called up. You're not going to get called up if you're in the KHL. You're going to get called up if you're in the NHL or AHL, excuse me. Plus, the team freaking needs you. Don't most new employees want to impress their employer? Like, it just baffles me. Why does he hold all this weight? Like, he's a 22-year-old goalie. Goalies are voodoo. I don't know, man. It irks the shit out of me that we can't just have a normal goddamn prospect for a change.
Yeah, well, that's obvious.
Almost sprayed my computer. Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, so he's here for now, and
Elliot Friedman did say had a possible agreement. I don't know if they had details though, but there's definitely something going on.
And I mean, we know how I feel about it. Like, to me, it's fine. It's whatever. I'll tell you what. Right now, maybe Fedotov will be solid, but I can't stand watching him play goalie. I hate watching him, and it doesn't mean that he's not going to be good. He's just not easy on the eyes. And for that little bit that Kolosov came in, you could see the athleticism, again, I don't know what goes into being a goalie, but he was fun to watch for me. He was quick. Like going from Fedotov to him was like night and day, you know?
I know what you're
So
talking about because
yeah.
I felt, and maybe it's because Fedotov was having
Well, he's
like,
massive and he just is really lanky and kind of
so
he's
those kind of goalies, they can't typically move the same way.
right.
Like Ben Bishop he wasn't,
He's tough on the
Domingoshing it.
eyes.
It is, but they take up so much of the net. But they can't just stand there either. They got to be able to play. I did think Fedotov's like post to post was really slow too. Like when they're behind the net, that made me a little nervous. When I watched Kolosov play, it was like watching a goalie, an athletic, good goalie, and it was like it gave me confidence. And of course, I started texting a goddamn group chat just too early, and then he gets scored on. But again, I don't put that on him at all. And yeah, for the very little I've seen, I was a fan of. I hope he starts like the last preseason game. For me, I think Urson is done preseason, right? Or do you think he's going to play? They have one game left.
No, I think he's done. I think New Jersey's going to ice basically maybe a sub AHL team tomorrow night because they're in
Definitely
Europe. So I don't really see the benefit of playing Sam Urson. If you want to see some more like what do we have in Fedotov and what do we have in Kolosov, I might even start Kolosov and give Fedotov the last period of the game.
I would do that. Or if they give Kolosov the whole game, I wouldn't even be against it. Think about the situation they're in with having three goalies. Like, is there really any reason to give Fedotov a period at this point? Like, just unless Kolosov has a big game. Like, I would put Fedotov as a backup, and I would be Kolosov's game, unless they think that's unfair or some shit. But I live in an adult world where that's life. Like,
I mean, unless they're like, we'll give you the whole game and you got a chance to beat out Fedotov. That's the only. But like,
if this agreement exists, why not give him the whole game? Like, if I'm him, I'm like, I got to show you what I have. I've barely been here.
Shut these guys out, and you got the backup job.
Even if we signed this guy to a 2-year deal worth what, $6 million or some shit.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, because look, let's be real. So the goaltending position it's probably the biggest question mark, right? Heading into the regular season, at least that's the consensus.
Yeah. Urson's
Right?
look pretty good. I mean, you're right, though. You're right. Until they play NHL competition on a regular basis, including being able to move the backup in to keep Urson fresh and whatnot. Yes, it definitely is. Yeah.
And so like during the preseason, at least, Urson's looked like he's grabbed the reins here. Like I feel confident with him in goal day one. Like I feel like we can win any game with him when he starts, right? That's just how I feel about Urson. That's how I think a lot of us felt watching him last year until he broke down. It wasn't really his fault that he broke down, but hey, that's the truth. I think this year is going to be a lot different. I feel like they actually have a plan for him, and I hope a plan in goal. I mean, they have 3 friggin' guys. If things go south, at least one of them should be able to be the backup there or whatever. So it is the biggest question mark. I think because we need to see it happen in the regular season from Urson. If he gets a couple good games under his belt, I think a lot of people would feel pretty good about that. I'll be honest. I feel like I still need to see more from Fedotov. We talked about it in the chat. I think you probably feel the same. I'm not sold on him. Obviously, if we don't really want to go based off what we saw last year, right? And I don't feel comfortable going off of his Russian numbers from 3 and 4 years ago because I think he was a different goalie, a different guy back then before all this military stuff happened. So I think we're finally going to get to see a comfortable Fedotov. What's he look like? Can he be a capable backup to Urson? Or is he going to be just as good? What do you think?
I mean, 100% agree. He's going to have equipment that fits him. He's going to have a defense in front of him that's adequate. That game, the Islanders, like that was a clear B squad, so I don't want to kill him too much. But there are going to be times where even the A squad has some breakdowns and you're going to have to pull some magic out of your hat. So it's going to be interesting. I'm assuming if there's a structured game and things don't go awry, he'll be okay. But I want to see what happens when shit hits the fan. Like Urson's proved he can handle the games that when shit hits the fan. he's had those 1-0 shutouts. He's had those 6-5 wins. I mean, where he gets peppered at the end of the game and he shuts it down. Can Fedotov do something like that? I don't know. So like, there's a lot. I actually hope that he sees more games than we think, because this is another season of we need to see what we have. We need to figure out who's here, what we have. It goes for the roster across the board. Fedotov's the big one. He's only signed to a 2-year deal, and Kolosov's knocking on the door, or he's knocking on the. I'm so sorry. I thought I could finish that point before I sneeze. Yeah, he's knocking on his passport and having him getting the hell out of Dodge. And then there's other goalies, up the pipeline. Boynton looked great in preseason. The short time he was here, rookie game. And as of Ragan, all we're hearing about how awesome he's starting to look. So they're going to have to – this is a big year for the goalies. Like, we're going to have to figure out what we have in Urson to an extent, Fedotov, Kolosov, whenever he can squeak in, and don't upset him, don't piss him off, because other guys are coming. Like, and they drafted well, it seems like. And I know it's goalie, so who the hell knows, right? But at the end of the day, you're hearing what you want to hear at the stage of where these goalie prospects are. Like, you're hearing exactly what you want to hear, if not better. So they're going to have to figure some shit out. So it's a good year to figure out a lot. Goaltending is a big question mark. Every game is going to be a reason to watch. Like, oh, they're not doing that well. I don't care. I want to see what this guy's doing. I want to see who's starting tonight, what lines they rolling out. I want to see so much with this team. So it's going to be a nice, fun, fact-finding year.
Yeah. And hopefully we, find out some good things. We've been hearing about Fedotov and even Urson and Kolosov for years behind Carter Hart, right? And we were like, what are we going to do with all these goalie prospects? And all of a sudden they're all here at once, right? So it's like, how's this going to shake out here? And, I don't think we have any definitive answers to the proverbial goalie question mark, but I feel confident in Urson heading into the regular season. Now it's like, okay, we've seen him break down. For me, it's who's going to be the guy that can provide support for him, right? Fedotov or Kolosov. And hey, we're going to have to find out. This is why I think sports are, it's the best reality TV show out there, because it's real, for real. And you get all the drama, how's things going to play out? Where's Fedotov going to end up? Things like that. So, yeah. And so, not that we're doing a whole season preview thing here, but I got to say, like, because I feel kind of strongly about Urson, for me, one of the biggest question marks on the team is the defense, right? And that didn't really come up in our group chat as, something that people were necessarily worried about. And it's something that I was worried about before last season, and we didn't need to worry about. But Jack, I got to tell you, the Flyers' top pair in York, Sanheim, by now we know how I feel about, those two players, and they're our top pair, which is fine. But Drysdale, I don't think is up to speed yet. He went through that off-season surgery, which I think maybe some people are forgetting that's going to take a few months to, get back to zero on, but hasn't looked great yet. Nick Seeler, is what he is. He's a shot blocker, defensive guy, provides some toughness. And then our bottom pair, and Igor Zamula and Rasmus Ristolainen, who is coming back from injury himself. Now, he's looked pretty decent in the preseason. But is this a decor that we should be heading into this season, confident in, Jack?
I think so. Maybe not like over the moon, but I definitely like York and Sanheim. I think Sanheim is who he is. If anything about him, it's just be consistent. He's had so many good years, bad years, good years, bad years, and then he wins most improved player twice, which is hysterical. But like, if he can just be who he was last year, that'll be enough. Like, he's not a top line guy, but he's a guy. He's a good player. He's a good guy. He's a good teammate. Like, he handled almost being traded so much better than I thought he was going to. All the hoopla about that was like he was like depressed, upset, and wah. They were trying to keep it quiet. He handled it pretty well. He had a good season. Now, York, on the other hand, is, in my opinion, the team's best defenseman. Definitely ceiling-wise at this point. and he's impressed. Shockingly, not the way he was drafted, but that's more of what we need. Defensively, he's probably one of the best, honestly. He's always in the right position. He does what he needs to do defensively. If he can slowly start to unlock his offensive game, which was the reason he was drafted as high as he was, I mean, he could turn into a real nice player. And a part of me wants that to happen right now because you want to know. But at the same time, he's in line for a contract. It's like, I wish we could like re-sign him and then he figures it out. But at the end of the day, when I'm just talking about the player, if he can add that offensive game element to his game, which we know he has, just can he do it at the NHL level? He can be a real nice player, and that'll do wonders for this team. Another name I have to bring up is Ristolainen's had a great preseason. It is what it is. I think the guy's an oaf. I think he's a goof. But under the right coaching, he's usable. He's had 2 goals. He's bullying guys. I think he I don't remember which game it was, but he like knocked somebody over. I love that shit. Do that all day long. That is, if the guy's playing like that, they're playing with confidence, not just being an idiot. Like, he had a goal that game, and then he when the game was basically over, just totally steamrolled somebody. Like, you're going to want somebody like that on your defensive pair, especially your third pair. Is the contract a lot? Sure. Excuse me. It'll only help him get traded. You know what else will help him get traded? Making the playoffs. Playoff Fristo is like bigger than Sasquatch, as far as things that don't exist, maybe they do exist. And when I talk about the team this season, I don't see him going anywhere with that contract unless he has a really good season. Him being healthy was the main thing. He's clearly healthy. Sealer's a sealer. I heard he got a little banged up. I guess he blocked a shot, hurt his foot, and played in practice. And I heard he blocked another shot and lost feeling in his foot. So I think he's fine, but that's what he does. He's a guy. We know his role. That's great. Drysdale's think goaltending is a question mark. Drysdale's a question mark. Now there's going to be the caveat as he had the surgery, whatnot. He's going to get this year regardless. But if he were able to unlock what he is, he's a top defenseman. And that is incredible, especially for your power play. And I don't see that happening this season, but he's a guy that I think is going to catch some flack this year. I don't see him unlocking that between the injury, between a couple of things. I think he put on some muscle, I thought I heard, or at least some weight. I don't know how that's going to go. He's somebody in preseason. I was like, wow, he had a great preseason. I really didn't notice him all that much. And a guy like him, you think you notice because he's supposed to give you that offensive touch. We'll see. I don't think he had a bad preseason by any stretch, but he was just kind of a guy, and he needs to be more than just kind of a guy. That's going to be interesting. Yeah. And then other than that, we know Eric Johnson's role. I really don't know what to think of Zamula. I didn't even think he was an NHL player until last year, and even then I have my questions. We'll see what he can do. Would not surprise me all that much if he's replaced by Andre at some point. We'll have to see. That being said, they have options. They have a decent decor. They have options if they have injuries or somebody's not performing. One guy I want to touch on real quick. You did your post-game show. I think it was after the Boston overtime game. And I was giving Adam Yinning some credit. He did have a good first half of that game. Upon further review, he had a lot of turnovers second half of that game. Didn't realize that. Ever since then, he's been dog shit. And Torts made that known, essentially saying he kind of we had him penciled in, and guess what? He ain't penciled in anymore. And that's a friggin' shame because, we thought the guy was going back home, signs a 2-year deal to live his NHL dream, and you kind of you lose a spot you pretty much had. Not that it was a starting spot, but still, you want to be the first call up. And he got beat up on Andre. Mostly, Andre played well, but mostly because of how bad Yinning played. So I think that experiment is over. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on another team by December.
That's a good point.
I do know the only last thing I'll mention is I know that Torts was not happy that more defensemen didn't make the decision tougher for them. I didn't expect Bonk to make the team this year, but I think he's got to be talking about him first and foremost. Andre did make the decision tough, but they're ultimately going to, because they can just call him up, they're going to give the extra, you're going to go with an extra forward as it is. And other than that, what defensemen, Ronnie Adder was out of here pretty quick. He had a pretty goddamn rough start to his preseason. He was pretty fast. I don't even know who else is left after that point who realistically had some kind of chance. Seems all the guys, all the dark horses are all at forward.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Zamula I like as a steady presence back there. Like, I feel like, at least for me, I know what I'm getting with Zamula. While it may not be overly impressive, it's not, at least it hasn't been like, oof, how are you going to recover from that? So, like, he's kind of like the steady Eddie third pair. He's what you kind of want, I guess, on your third pair. Who else did you mention there? Oh, yeah, Jinning. Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah. He had like a good opening 20 minutes of those preseason games, and that was it. And
That was it, man.
it was odd for me because when they signed Nick Seeler last year, for me it was like, what happens with Adam Jinning now? Because they're the same style of player. There's not a spot here for Jinning. So when you think about guys like Andre coming, you got Ristolainen on the bottom pair. Yeah, it didn't really make sense. So he's kind of stuck in the AHL, or he's a call up mid-season somewhere, or maybe he's just trying to get under his skin there with Torts saying, "Hey, we had him penciled in." Because did you really have him penciled in?
I mean, I do think they were like, "Hey, when we run into injuries, which we will, like one of the first guys we're going to call up is Yinning. He's stepped in when him and Adder came up. He was the better defenseman, and now it's like, Jesus Christ, man, what was that? I'm signing a 2-year deal instead of going home to live my dream to be an NHL player. Good for you. Like, I appreciate that. And did not show up in the preseason. Like, had a first couple of game and maybe a half a game, and that's it. Like, yikes, man. That's tough.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's kind of switch gears here. We're almost an hour in. That was one of the quickest hours of the new season.
I'll just answer Teddy's question real quick. The roster is not set. They have till Monday. I think it's 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Monday to get their roster set. And Jett Luchanko, Lixell, those guys are still, Kolosov technically. Those guys are all still here. Am I forgetting the name? I guess Anthony Richard, the speedster, he's still hanging around. Don't expect any of them to make the team as we discussed, but it's not set yet. It will be set by next Monday.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. So we're going other standouts of camp. You mentioned Richard. You mentioned Lixell. Let's kind of start with Richard real quick here. Not to just get him out of the way, but to kind of just get him out of the way. 27 years old, former 4th-round pick, 100th overall by the Nashville Predators back in 2015, I think.
Oh, wow.
So
over off to Konechny draft.
Yeah, he's not a spring chicken anymore, but I think he's making an impression. And you kind of notice him when he's on the ice, like every shift. And it doesn't mean he's always doing something productive, but you notice him, like he's flying around. He's number 90. Like I know Anthony Richard's number. I don't know Jacob Gautier's number. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you just remember him during the course of a game, and after the game, you kind of Anthony Richard. You kind of noticed him once again. So I don't know. Maybe he's obviously made an impression because he made it this far in camp. Obviously, you expect them to be, cut, sent down to the Phantoms. They need these kind of players too. But if there is an injury to, a guy, I don't know, like a Lawton, a Cates, a Hathaway, somebody like that, a Paling, maybe Anthony Richard is now a name in consideration for a call-up,
Well, it's certainly if he plays well in the AHL, and that's what they're going to look for. So, look, you make a name for yourself in camp, you're going to be on the short list already. So don't fart around with the AHL, and you never know. He's definitely not going to be some kind of gem, but you could get a call up. You can spend some time in the NHL, and that you can't teach speed, man. And that's something that in today's NHL they're a big fan of. So use that to your advantage. Play well, do the right things. Really impress Lappy, and he'll give you a good word. And it wouldn't shock me if they run into some injury situations where he could be a call-up. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, for sure. All right, We have a comment from Michael. It kind of reminds me of Pitlick, N.A. I think that's maybe Albe Kubel, Raffle type, but at this point, you would think he would have made it already. Yeah, maybe he just didn't have the opportunity. I think he was definitely in Nashville's organization. I think he only got in 2 games. And I think he was with Montreal last year where he got into 13 regular season games. But there was like a span of like 2 years where he didn't get any NHL time. So maybe it could have just been, bad luck or whatever. But good depth guy to have in the organization.
And that's all it is, organizational depth. I mean, if you're drafted by Nashville as a forward and you don't make the team, that's tough. They're looking for forwards all day. So, yeah, I mean, he's never going to be anything, but you never know. You could have a guy that comes up and just provides in the right situation. We've seen it like with the Phillies when you have that. What was that one guy's name? Buddy. You had Buddy and you had Stevenson. You can have a moment, but that's about all you're going to get. So It's nice to have these guys. And it's nice to push other guys in the AHL because we know guys like Denoyer and Wisdom, they need pushing because they're going to be pushed out the door soon. So you can bring a guy like this in and be like, if you can't beat this guy out, then why are we even giving you a contract? And that it could have something to do with that as well. You're going to want your Phantoms to be competitive, and this guy can help keep them competitive in a way. So it's good. It's a good thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the other surprise standout, or maybe it's not necessarily a surprise. I don't know, but Ole Lycksell has stuck around and had himself a nice game. I don't recall who it was against. It was the game where he had the primary assist on Ristolainen's goal and the primary assist on, I think it was Michkov's goal.
Is that Boston?
It may have been, and he looks impressive in spurts. And I think impressive enough to where, he's on the bubble here. He's really challenging to make the Flyers roster out of camp. And he's another one of those put up or shut up, do or die time guys. Ole Lycksell. He's been in the organization, seems like forever, and he's not such a spring chicken anymore. So this was his time to, make the team or move on. And he's certainly making a push to do that. He's in the second year of a deal. He will be an RFA after this season, but he's 25, or he will be 25. I'm sorry, he's 25 now. I apologize. He'll be 26 on August 24th. So he'll be 25 the entire season. Just to make sure everyone knows Ole Lycksell's 25. Okay.
Get that all straightened out. All right.
So yeah, I mean, this is it for him, right, Jack? Like, I guess what I'm saying is he's making the most of now this opportunity. He's pushing to make the team. Does he deserve to make the team out of camp? What do you think, Jack?
Deserves a tough question. It's a tough way to put it, simply because if anybody deserves it, I think Andre did a good job. And there's just not a spot. That's the other thing. It comes down to, is there a spot? And this team was not very active in the offseason, and that's okay. I'm just saying that there's no spots available. I think Lycksell, even Jett to an extent, and Andre all deserve it, but it is what it is. Like Farabee deserved it when he first came up, and he had to wait a few games because of a numbers game. And unfortunately, only one of the three are going to go, and they've made it sound like it's going to be a forward, and Jett is probably going to go back to juniors because of his age. So Lycksell can technically play all three positions, but he's a skilled guy. He can play. He's a good passer. I don't know if he's a guy that just didn't put it all together. He's not like one of those guys that has skillful in everything he does and just didn't put it all together. I just think he has offensive skill. I think he's been around long enough to play a responsible enough game where he can be relied upon and still chip in offensively occasionally. One of the biggest digs, I'd say, is like he has a little bit of chemistry with Michkov, but he's not going to play with Michkov. However, you look at your organizational needs and where you want players to grow. He's a guy that if they were to make him the 13th forward and he didn't play, they're not too concerned with that. Like, they don't want to do that to Jett. They don't want to do that to, say, Jett made the team and Brink sits or Kate sits. They don't want to do it to one of those guys. Like, they want to see what they have in those guys. I don't think they care all that much what they see in Luxell. Like if he gets in, he gets in. And I think he makes sense because he can play wherever they need him to play in the bottom six. And he's clearly a bottom six and not too concerned about him growing. So I think he ultimately is the guy who makes the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I've look, I'm not a huge Ole Luxell guy, so I'm not going to sit here and rant and rave for Ole Luxell, but he's looked good enough to me to make the team out of camp. And whether he plays, that's that's up to Torts or whoever is making the roster decisions. But
I kind of agree with that. He
yeah.
played good enough. Not
Yeah.
wrong. He didn't blow the doors off.
He's I'll just say this. He's done more for me than Luchanko has, like that I think will translate into an NHL game.
Well, that's the other thing. He has NHL experience.
Does that make sense though?
Absolutely. And it's because he's I don't know how many games he's played, but he's had NHL experience. Like I don't count Emil Andre's NHL experience as true NHL experience. He played in the NHL like 3 games and did not look good. Where Luxell has been up and down. He's played. He's been fine. He's a guy they go on a road trip and they need a 13th forward in case of injury. He's their guy, and he's gotten into games. And I don't think he's somebody for the future, but he's exactly what they need in the 13th forward, essentially.
Yeah.
If you have Jett make the team, it's a whole different conversation because you're kind of altering your lineup. You don't want Jett to sit. That'd be ridiculous. But Luxell, the only thing is he can't be sent down without being claimed. Maybe you think he sneaks through. Maybe you don't care. I don't know. Coming out of preseason, though, he's my guy, and it's not just because he played the best. Like I think there's things to keep in mind. Like if I had to play a season, and this is my only season, and then I'm done, I'm probably taking Jett. But because it's a organizational growth of the players and whatnot, Luxell makes the most sense for the season.
Yeah, I'm taking Luxell because Luchanko, to me, when he plays, he's going to be, trying to figure it out. And I already said it. I don't want I don't want my 3C playing to figure the game out. Luxell, this is what I noticed with him, at least in the games I watched. Not that he's got it figured out. Like, no, I'm not trying to say like he's going to be like a 40-point, 50-point guy, but he's come into camp like a bull. Like he knows what to expect, and he's the mentality's different. He's already got it figured out in the experience aspect of it, and he's coming in and he's playing free, right? Where and that's the difference between him and Luchanko for me. He's coming in, knows what he's got to do, knows what to expect, and you can see at least during preseason that he knows how to play at this level. Luchanko, you have to worry about. He's all right. Well, he's figuring it out. When he's on the ice, you could see him, kind of getting seeing where everybody is, that kind of whole thing. He's getting used to playing in the NHL, which is all fine, by the way. It's not negative to say that. But to me, that's the difference between, who would I play or who would I keep? That's why I would keep Luxell. Not to mention that I think he's got to pass through waivers. I'm not sure if anybody would claim him, but that's also something that you have to think about. Like Luchanko, you could just send his ass back to junior, and that he's fine, he's good. He's still going to be in your organization,
right? And this is a season, as I said before, about we're going to find out what we have in a lot of guys. And now I know that Luxell's not high on that list, but he's a guy like maybe they do get something for him. Maybe some weird scenario where they have to move somebody or trade somebody, and he's a part of that package. Somebody mentioned Risto, maybe something like that. I also, like you were alluding to, I think he understands his role. Like he's not somebody who's trying to overly impress. He's here to play a role, and maybe he's looking at after this season, if I do well enough in the position given to me, I could pick up with another team. I'm in Utah or Seattle or wherever next year, and I have a more steady NHL job, or I have a better chance of winning that job out of camp. And they're not looking at prospects, or actually like who can just fill the role. And there's a lot of that in the league, so it works beneficial to both sides. So it just truly makes the most sense to me.
He's got a little bit more to play for, right?
Absolutely.
Like not that this could be it for him, but he not. I don't know if I want to say like you said, and I don't want to say if he's like auditioning exactly, but he almost kind of is. Like he's putting play on tape
Oh,
for other
he's not
teams,
stupid.
kind of thing.
Look how stacked this team is already.
Yeah.
And I say stacked as not that they're amazing, but they're all NHL players up until like what? There's maybe one spot, the 12th and 13th spot at best.
Mm.
And they got Jett Luchanko already pushing for a spot. Who the hell knows who they bring in next season?
Yeah.
Like you have other prospects who could push for spots. They have 3 first-round picks. The writing's on the wall. Like it's got to be in the back of his mind. Like I have to consider my future here. It's probably not with the Flyers.
Right. Yep. Perfectly fair to say. So yeah, Jack, we this is the end of our topic list.
Uh-oh.
Action-packed show. Hour and 10 minutes in.
Let's go, baby. We're getting close to the start of the regular season. It's around the god darn corner.
9 days away, October 11th. I think I saw in.
Is that all 9 days? Thank God. Wait a minute. So does the regular season start Friday?
It would start next week, I think.
Like
the NHL regular season?
The NHL regular. Yeah. So it's Buffalo, New Jersey, right?
Yeah. I'm not positive on that.
So the thing with that is when I hit Friday, it says Buffalo is playing the Sabres at 1:00.
Okay.
And then I hit Saturday, and it says the Sabres are playing the Devils. Did I say Buffalo's playing the Sabres? The Devils are playing the Sabres at 10 a.m. in the morning on Saturday. What? Is that like
they're in like Slovakia or something. I haven't really been keeping up with that.
Which game is the start of the regular season? Or are they replaying it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've really only been following the Flyers. So yeah, I just know they start the 11th. I'm not even sure what day that's on. The whatever is 9 days from right now. It might be a Friday.
You're talking about the Flyers?
Yeah.
Yes, that one is. Oh, I got it right here. That is a Friday, 10 p.m. against the Canucks. Cannot freaking wait.
Perfect. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up here, but we have what is this called again? A super comment, Jack, from
Super
Teddy.
Chat. Super chat
comment.
Thank you, Eddie.
So Teddy asks, one of the centers that we passed on, would he be 2C here now? And the simple answer to that is no.
When you say passed on, who are you referring to?
I assume he means Hellenius. That's what everybody was up in arms about.
I was going to say, because the guys we were trying to trade up for, that's not passing, but Hellenius, he's with Buffalo. I haven't heard anything about him. I don't think so. I know he was more NHL ready, but like right away ready, I don't think so. And I don't even know who else. I thought Luchanko was probably the next in line after that. Maybe there's one other person. I kind of want to pull the draft now. I really don't think so. I don't expect anybody from that draft, which was considered a weaker draft, I guess, to be NHL ready, or unless somebody impressed that we don't know about.
Well, I'll look that up real quick for
I got it right here. So it would have been Hellenius, and then the next center taken beside it would have been Sasha Boisvert for Chicago. Palver, is that it?
Yeah, Frenchie.
Whatever. Michael Haig, that's an interesting one. So Michael Haig and Hellenius are really the only two I think we could have missed on.
So I have something for you real quick. Let me just see if I can bring it up here. So,
oh boy, I'm excited.
Hellenius was sent down to the AHL. There he is, number 94, loaned to Rochester. So, I mean, he's in the AHL, which is not junior. So there's that. So to answer the question, no, he will not be 2C on this team, on the Flyers or the Buffalo Sabres this year.
Now, what about Haig? He's the only other one I heard a lot of good news things about.
Yeah, I didn't see.
I'm just looking now. I can't see anything.
James will be glued to his seat in the press box for tomorrow night's sizzling matchup. And I don't know if that's a hot dog joke or not, but yeah, there will be hot dogs up there. Will not be. I don't know what the Flyers are going to do. I guess they're going to start their full roster against New Jersey's B or C squad. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
It says freshman's Michael Haig looking to fill Michigan's void at center. That was 6 days ago, so that tells me he probably didn't make it.
No.
So I don't think so. I think we did pretty well in Jett, believe it or not.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. All right, boys and girls. So one preseason game left tomorrow night. We'll do a post game tomorrow night. We'll wrap that one up. And yeah, I guess there'll be roster cuts this weekend for Monday. We'll be back next week, same time. Actually, you know what? We're going to switch to Mondays, at least for October. We're going to try that out. So hopefully you guys are able to switch over with us to Mondays, still 8 p.m. And yeah, just because the Flyers don't have anything going on Monday nights, at least during October. But if we decide to switch anything back,
we should have our roster by 5.
Exactly.
That's great. Go live a couple hours after that, and I know what we think.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So one last time, guys, give us a subscribe, follow, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Set alerts for weekly shows. Head over to hwhockey.net for all of our latest episodes and articles. As always, thanks for hanging out. For Jack, I'm Jim. Everybody enjoy the Flyers game tomorrow.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right.